What's going on YouTube? So Buick has been trying very hard to shake off their old reputation. And one of the big things that's been doing that is the sport touring trim level. And that today is what we're standing next to. This is the all new Buick Enclave in that sport touring trim level, which gives you kind of the boldest design of the entire lineup. So is this the version to buy? Well, let's go ahead and jump in and find out. Now, obviously a very important thing about this trim level is the way it looks, and that begins up here in the front. So you're going to have an exclusive design for your face. We're going to use a lot of gloss black. So the entire grille here is going to be fully gloss black. This, of course, is the latest Buick shape that you've seen proliferate throughout their entire lineup, and your logo is up here on the hood. Now, as we move over here to our headlights, these are going to be a interesting separated housing. So up at the top, we have our daytime running light and turn signal indicator. Down here in the middle is where you'll find your projector LED headlights. These are going to be included on all versions of the Enclave, including, of course, this ST. Moving on to our wheels. This is the standard alloy wheel here on the ST. So this is a 20-inch alloy. As you can see, it's a contrast design on board. You will be able to, in the future, get an available 22-inch alloy wheel, just like you can on the Avenir, but for now, this is the standard 20. Now, up here, this is another big element. This is the trim level that's going to come with gloss black finishes around our wheel arches, as well as along our lower fascia, and you've got that same finish here with our ST branding now on the door trim. And then again, you'll find some gloss black finish here with our mirrors. These do, of course, have standard heating and blind spot monitoring.
And in addition to that, the mirrors are also going to be power folding and auto dimming on the driver's side. But as far as the side look of this Enclave, you will notice that this is a very large SUV. As a matter of fact, it's 207 inches long, which is really quite big. Now, we'll talk about how that translates to space later on when we head into the cargo and interior sections, but let's walk around to the rear and see what we're going to find back here. Now, of course, the Enclave is going to have an all-new shape this year, and I have to say, I think the back looks very handsome, especially here in this sport touring trim level. Now, as far as features you're going to get, we have a spoiler up top. We also have an exposed wiper, and then one of the big things about the new Enclave is that we're going to get full-length LED taillights going all through here. Now, like I said, these are full LED taillights, so that includes your brake light, your turn signal indicator, as well as your reverse light. So really nice lighting here on the Enclave to give you that premium feel. Down at the bottom, all of this is going to be finished in a nice piano black, so I do like that as well. We're additionally going to get exposed exhaust outlets, standard on all models, and we have a 5,000-pound tow rating. Now, in terms of your safety systems, you are going to get every single one of those as standard equipment, so I'm happy to see that, even here on this mid-trim level ST. Additionally, you can get available Super Cruise. That's available on every version of the Enclave this year. It's going to be about a $3,000 option, so do be aware of that. But guys, let's go ahead and dive into the interior because I bet you won't believe what's inside. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's go into the interior. Here's your key fob. It's your typical Buick key fob. You do have, of course, a smart entry system as well as remote start on board. And then to get inside, there's not a sensor behind the door handle, so you just press the little button there and that will unlock the door. And then check out this interior. So obviously we're looking at really a sportier design than what you'd expect and a lot more technology than what you'd expect. But before we get into those elements, let's start off with our seats. So the Sport Touring is the middle trim level in the lineup, and as such, it is going to upgrade from the leatherette to a real leather. This is going to be the only way you can get this. It's a black with blue accents, and as you can see, we have unique perforations running throughout. We have kind of a different texture on your bolsters, as well as a piping down the sides. It's very, very nice looking seat overall. You've got 12 ways of power adjustment with our 4-way lumbar support. You can get massage, but you're going to have to get the Avenir for that feature. And then we've got the memory seats, which are an available option on this ST. But let's go ahead and get inside. Now that we're inside, let's go ahead and look at the rest of the cabin materials. So over here on our armrest portion, of course, you're going to find a nice padded leatherette. You have a faux aluminum through the center section, and then a nice leatherette across the top with a stitching detail. That same material is going to continue across pretty much the entire upper dashboard. You have more of that faux aluminum through there, more of this textured trim through the center section, and then a stitched material through there. Finally, on your floating console, you have a piano black and then a padded leatherette along the sides for your knee to rest against. Let's go ahead and fire it up here. And then as soon as you fire it up, you're greeted with this gigantic display. This really is kind of the wow factor of the interior. As soon as you get inside, it really just grabs your attention. It's a 30-inch display. It's absolutely enormous, and it's one single piece. So I'll see if you can kind of, see that when I put it in that design there. You can kind of see that it's all just one piece with a really cool design where it wings out on both ends. Now, as far as the functionality of this, obviously this is both your gauge cluster and your main infotainment. The gauge cluster here is going to be highly customizable, so what you can do is just press the button on the steering wheel to cycle between several different looks. You can do something simple like that, or you can go into the big old map like we have on there as well. Over here on your left-hand side, this is an area where you can adjust the brightness as well as the location, of your head-up display. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, you're going to notice the latest Buick design. This is a really nice steering wheel. I'm a big fan of this. It's a thick rim steering wheel. Of course, you got the full leather covering with the cross stitching. And then up top there, that's going to be your Super Cruise sensor. As far as the overall look, it is flat bottom here on the ST. Manual tilt and telescoping on both the Preferred and ST. It will be power adjusting on the top end Avenir. All right, and let's turn over here and look at interior storage, because compared to the previous generation, which wasn't bad, this is still going to be a big improvement. So, first of all, we've got this little cubby here. You can remove this, and when you do, you'll notice that we've got a very deep center console with a rubber lining down there at the bottom. That's not the big news. Of course, the big news is that we've got this cool floating console. So as you can see, this is not actually attached up here. This does fully float out, giving you just this enormous amount of open space here, which you can use for just about anything. Really is a giant area. Of course, you also have your wireless phone charging pad up top. This is also a very large wireless phone charging pad. And then you've got your prominent volume control for the audio system. This is going to come with the 12-speaker Bose sound system. You get the higher-end Bose sound system on the Avenir trim level. Now, as we kind of return back to this area, I really like how simple they've made this climate area. So you just have this single row of buttons, and this is where you're going to be able to adjust your temperature up and down with this nice textured metal trim. Like I said, it is a physical control, but it is nice and simple at the same time. This is a 3-zone automatic setup. You can get to a few additional functions if you need to up here in the display down in the lower panel. Now, also in this lower panel is where you can activate your 3-stage heated seats. Those are going to be included standard here on this Sport Touring trim level. Ventilated seats are going to be on your Avenir trim level. And let's go ahead and talk about this display. Now, we already talked about the size, obviously, but as far as the infotainment system, it does have the latest and greatest system. That means you have Google Apps built into the system itself. You have your Play Store, you have your Maps, and you also have your Google Assistant built right into the system. You also have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I do want to point that out, as this is not an electric General Motors product. You do still have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay on board. You can also customize your ambient lighting inside of the system itself. And this is also where you're going to turn on and off things like your headlights, since those no longer have stocks on the latest General Motors products. Speaking of stocks, as you can see, this is the new electronic shifter. We've really seen this on a lot of General Motors products. It doesn't take up any space because it's up here on the column. You just press down for drive. You have paddle shifters on board. Press up for reverse. When you do that, you've got your backup camera on board. This is a 360 camera. It's included on every single 2025 Enclave. And then just press the end of the stock there for park. Rising above here, we've got an auto dimming mirror. You can get the smart camera mirror, but you've got to get the Avenir trim level. And then finally up here at the very top, I can go ahead and roll back the sunshade on our panoramic sunroof. Compared to the previous generation, this is all one big piece of glass. This is an available option on this Sport Touring trim level.
All right, guys, so let's talk about the rear seat area when it comes to this Enclave. Now, I have to say just right here from the start that this is a very big vehicle. I said that on the outside, and you're going to see it translated to here in the rear seat area as well. So as far as our space figures are concerned, we're looking at 41.5 inches of legroom and about 40 inches of headroom. Those are really, really good figures, guys. Very impressive for this segment of vehicle. And as far as the seats themselves, I do want to point out that we are in captain's chairs. That's actually going to be the only way that you can get your Enclave. So if you like captain's chairs, they are standard across the entire board. But if you need 8-passenger seating, do be aware that at least for this model year, bench seating is not available. Now, these seats do slide forward and back a very good distance, and they're also going to recline a good distance as well. So really good amounts of space and comfort here in the Enclave. Now, as far as features are concerned, here in the center, you're going to find 2 cup holders. We're also going to have our own climate zone back here with our own temperature adjustments. And we're going to have a household outlet as well as 2 USB ports. Now, as far as how much knee room I have with the seat adjusted to Drew, we're sitting at about 10 inches of space. So like I said, really, really big and impressive figures. If you look at the door trim is going to be nicely appointed, leather from top to bottom pretty much, and you do have a really cool door handle design as well as a lot of storage. And let's go ahead and check out the third row. So in order to get back here, it's really easy. You just press this button right here. That's actually going to tilt the seat up and allow it to slide out of the way. So really easy. You wouldn't even have to remove a child's seat. Now, as far as the third row itself is concerned, actually, let me go ahead and adjust that a little bit so it's more realistic. Now, this seat is slid all the way back, and like I mentioned, I am 5'9". We're going to have really good amounts of space, about 32 inches of legroom. One of the really great things about having such a big size vehicle is the fact that you have a lot of space, and certainly here in the third row, you're going to find that. Now, the thigh support is pretty good. We also do have a third seat back here, so you can fit 3 people here in the third row. As far as features are concerned, we have cup holders as well as a USB-C port and vents right out here in the ceiling. So that's something that even some of the luxury rivals don't include. As far as how this ranks on our third row rating scale, I'm going to say this is fit for adults. All right, so walking up to the cargo area of the Enclave, let's see how much space you're going to get. We do have a standard AutoSense power tailgate, so if I just walk up to the vehicle, it's going to go ahead and sense my presence and actually open the tailgate for me in a hands-free fashion. Now, as far as the space is concerned back here, we're going to be sitting at really good numbers. We're sitting at over 20 cubic feet behind the third row of seats, and if I use these buttons to power fold the third row down, which, by the way, that is an optional feature on the ST model. We're going to have 57 cubic feet, and I can also go ahead and electronically fold down the second row as well. That gives me about 57 cubic feet behind the second row, and as a maximum 97 cubic feet. Those are really good figures, as you might expect. This is a big vehicle, like I said, that gets you a lot of cargo capacity and a lot of space for your passengers. Now, one of the things we do in all of our reviews is we get our cargo length, width, and height figures, and from the back of the driver's seat up there, we're looking at about 90 inches of overall length. From behind the second row, 51 inches. Behind the third row, 22 inches. As far as overall width, we are looking at 49 inches wide, and height is going to come in at a very impressive 32 inches high. Up underneath of the floor, there's even more space in case you didn't find enough in the cargo area, or with the seats folded down, you can put it underneath of the floor. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Buick Enclave Sport Touring. Of course, in this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our signature sound level reading so we can see how quiet this new Enclave is. But first, we'll go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
That was taking her up to a little over 60 miles per hour, just kind of flat out. We are going uphill, just to point that out, but there's your 0 to 60 miles per hour. This, of course, does have that 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. So, compared to your previous 3.6 V6, I'm sure that's what a lot of you guys have in mind, you are actually getting more horsepower and more torque out of that engine, or this engine, excuse me, than that engine. Yeah.
As far as your official numbers, you are going to be sitting at 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque, so those are really, really good numbers. The only thing I will say about it is that it can get a little loud under hard accelerations like that. You can definitely hear some of the engine noise penetrating into the cabin, but like Drew said, you are getting a horsepower and torque benefit, and that's going to be standard across every version of the Enclave, so you don't have to get the fully loaded Avenir model to get this engine. It's standard on all of them. Alright, and would you looky there, we are on a secondary highway here in Oregon, and we have Super Cruise activated, so this is a really good demonstration of this hands-free highway driving function. It's not just for big interstates like I-75, it also can be used on a lot of roads like this. I believe GM says it will have 750,000 miles of highways mapped by
the end of next year.
End of next year. So a very good amount of roads are done, and you know, obviously it's very good for a family 3-row like this to have Super Cruise, because it really just helps you to relax and, you know, be able to take both hands and open a water bottle, things like that. Of course, you do still have to pay attention, but overall, it's probably, I would say for sure, the best hands-free assistant out there.
Yeah, the one, as far as what we've sampled, definitely. And it is super cool that they now have added the secondary roads like this, because this is not a huge road. This is just a little divided highway. It's actually quite curvy, and it's handling this just perfectly, really keeping it in the center as it goes around the corners.
And it'll also do things like lane change as well on highways.
Let's do another acceleration since no one is behind me. Yeah, not too bad. Now let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain. That, of course, is the 8-speed automatic transmission. This is a nice and smooth transmission. You know, obviously this is a vehicle that shares the powertrain with the Traverse and the GMC Acadia, its siblings. And, you know, between the time we spent with all three of them, this is a very good partner to this engine. They really work together very nicely. It is smooth when you're just using it, you know, normally. I would say the average person is not thrashing on their Enclave like I just was, but, you know, even when you do, it's still a nice partner.
Yeah. Power is routed to the ground via the front wheels or all-wheel drive, and that's goes for every single Enclave. You know, even the Avenir can opt for front-wheel drive, which means you have two different fuel economies, either 23 or 21 miles per gallon combined, depending on front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But I want to take a second here to discuss ride quality while we're just kind of cruising down the highway here. This Sport Touring, even though it has the word sport in its name, is not sporty in its overall ride quality. This is a Buick Enclave after all, and they have focused on making it very comfortable. So when you hit a bump, it does a really good job of soaking it up. And we also have the smaller 20-inch alloy wheels on this as compared to the 22s on the Avenir. So when you hit a bump in the road like what we just did, it does a really good job of soaking that up, so not a lot of it makes it into the cabin. Now Now, I do want to point out that you are going to be missing the adaptive dampers from the Avenir, but Drew and I were talking, we actually drove them back to back today, and we think that kind of the adaptive dampers just give you a little bit of additional comfort to make up for the wheel size. So I think overall ride quality between the two is very, very similar, and it's going to be very comfortable. Now, one of the other things we like to do is get a sound level reading going 55 miles per hour. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle the fan speed down to 1, make sure the rear climate is off, and then we can go ahead and get a sound level reading. .8 decibels is what we are sitting at in this Enclave Sport Touring. That's a very good reading. I do want to point out we're here in Oregon today on a media drive, so we're not on our official Kentucky stretch of road, so do keep that in mind. But we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to other vehicles in the segment. We can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and on our website we posted all of the cars that we review on this channel. And that's actually a pretty darn good sound level reading, especially considering I believe the road surfaces out here in Oregon are a little bit louder than Kentucky. So of course we do look forward to testing this vehicle back home when we get one for a full week. As far as how it compares to the other trim level, the Avenir that we tested out, that's a very similar figure. Buick was very quick to point out that they've worked to make this new Enclave very quiet inside. They've made acoustic glass in the front windshield as well as the front windows as well. So they really do focus on that quiet cabin. Of course, there's also noise canceling going on. All right, let's get to our airball and slam dunk, our least favorite and favorite element about the Enclave. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
The slam dunk for us today is going to be the space. That's not really specific to the Sport Touring, but it is something that really just stands out about this Enclave. It is a very large option in this segment. 97.5 cubic feet of space as your max cargo capacity, and then just tons of third and second row space as well.
Yeah. On the airball side of things, what we're going to say specifically for this Sport Touring is that we wish it was a little bit more stylish with its wheel selection on the outside. We have 20s, which of course is a decent sized wheel, but I really wish they had put maybe larger, fully blacked out wheels to give it that sporty look. A lot of the other Buicks in their Sport Touring trim level have like the largest wheel in the lineup, and you're not going to find that here, so I'm a little disappointed by that. Buick does offer available 22s on this trim level. However, it's offered as an accessory option, so it's a very expensive choice. I believe it's over $3,000 if you want those wheels. Because of that, most people will not be selecting it. Lastly here, let's talk about your warranty. You're going to have a 3-year 36 basic, 5-year 60 powertrain. You do also get complimentary service by Buick as well. And now let's talk pricing for this Enclave. So we start at $45,000 for the base preferred model, but the Sport Touring is going to be more expensive, but not by a ton. $47,400, so only about $2,400 more expensive than the base Enclave to get the Sport Touring. Now, of course, that's going to be a far cry from the fully loaded Avenir, which is $58,000. Now, if you're looking for a model like what we have today, we'll put the price on the screen right now. And if you're looking to buy a Buick Enclave or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. Now it's time for us to talk about resale and reliability to make sure you are making a smart purchase. First up, we'll talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Buick Enclave's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 46.1% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 17.1%. Now it's worth noting that is below industry average for resale value by percentage. However, it is going to be above most of the German luxury brands such as Audi and BMW and Mercedes if you happen to be cross-shopping with those.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources on reliability and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, Buick is rated above the industry average for all brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability and resale data, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands.
And guys, that's going to be it for our Sport Touring Enclave review. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, not only are you going to get more car reviews like this, you're also going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel that I'm sure you won't want to miss out on. Also, if you want a more detailed video, we do also have Avenir content as well, where we go through all the features in depth for this new Enclave, so you'll want to check that out. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.